Hello future tech leaders, I'm Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
So today, what we will do is we will start off with the purchase order transactions. A purchase order is something that you buy from a vendor. So you can have different types of purchase orders. I mean the purpose of a purchase order. You can have an internal purchase order when you're buying something for your company. Let's say monitors, furniture, chairs, equipment, anything that is routers, servers for your internal purpose. So anything that you buy for your company is something that you're buying internally. And then the second kind of purchase orders wherein you will buy something and you will sell the same product. It could be any sort of product. You might buy the mobile phones and sell it for a higher price. You might buy furniture, you might buy luggage, bags or whatever it is. It depends on the business line that you are into. You might be a clothing industry. You might be a fashion industry. You can be a food and beverage industry. You might be a warehouse and distribution industry. So for these kind of industries, what they do is they buy something, they keep it in the warehouse and they send it out across to the clients, which will be a sales order. Now the third type of purchase orders are, you can have a manufacturing unit. It could be any manufacturing unit, a ship manufacturing industry, an air cargoes, or it could be your basic cycle or a car or anything that you assemble it together. A bike manufacturing industry as well. So you are assembling the parts and then you are selling the main item to the client. So last time when we were discussing about a car manufacturing, we were talking about several parts that could be fitting into a car. You can have your steering, you can have your gear rod, you will have your clutch, accelerators, seats, engines, wipers, anything. All these are called bill of material. So bill of material, in the sense you will purchase these items from a vendor, an outside vendor, or you can have a separate manufacturing unit for these items as well. Like in, let's say for instance, Honda cars, when you give it for servicing and all, they will give you spare parts. If something is not working, they will give you spare parts. So they purchase that spare part or the manufacturer that spare part internally. So when you procure these 10 different items on a purchase order, you procure them, you put it in your warehouse as items. So when you're creating it on a work order, that is called a manufacturing work order. So when you create that work order, you use up these 10 quantity. So you end up using, let us say, so these are the 3 items which are already in the system. Like I have purchased 10 quantity and then I have this 10 quantity in the warehouse now. But how many do I need to build one car? It's only one wheel and then the normal wheels that I need 4 and then seats 4. So when I use up this material, whatever is left out will be in the inventory first. So that you can use that inventory onto the second work order or whenever you're building a second car. That is when the rest of the material is used. So that is the third type of purchase order. And I have enabled advanced procurement for you. Usually it is not covered as part of the training, but I have enabled the advanced procurement wherein you have the purchase contracts and blanket purchase orders. So before I put in a purchase order, there are certain things that are required for me to put in a purchase order. The first thing is a vendor, which we have already created. We have seen how a vendor form looks like and we have created a vendor. And then we might need an inventory item or a non-inventory item. Whatever, you can purchase anything. So that has to be in the system which we already created. We have created the inventory items, non-inventory items, the other charge items and everything. The third thing is a subsidiary which already exists and then the chart of accounts. Whatever account which hits it, the accounts payable which is there in a purchase order. We have created the chart of accounts as well along with the class, department and location. So let us see what is your purchase contract. The navigation is transactions, purchases and purchase contracts. So I went into the purchase contract. As I have mentioned earlier, these are the things which are needed for a purchase contract. You would need a vendor. So I will select, let's say, AAA Consulting as the vendor. And you can select an employee who is going to be in charge of this purchase order. And then you can put in a memo. This is just a text field. You have to specify what is the start date for this contract and what will be the end date. Now, what I mean to say is this particular purchase contract will be valid only during this period. So what is a purchase contract? I can say I can define a purchase contract saying that if I buy something from this vendor, AAA Consulting in between these dates, April 9 to May 31st. If I purchase one particular item, and where is the item that we are defining? Here it is. So let us say I am planning to purchase this particular item. Now the base price, the actual base price when I purchase this item is 230. But what I am saying is if I purchase from this vendor between so and so dates, it would be only 2% for me. Let me add that. So you can select a class, a location and everything as well, which are not mandatory. You may or you may not want to have it. Now, these are the test fields which have been created by somebody. So you don't have to bother about them. Test field run JTOB deposit percentage, TOB deposit due. Whatever you see over here, if you click on them, you will see that this is a custom field. So when you create a custom field, this is how the ID looks like. Custom body. And when you create, whenever you click on a standard field, this is also a custom field. You see this? Effective date based on. So this is a standard field which was a part of the NetSuite bundle. So this is how it works. Now I am telling the system that if I take a area consulting and then I consider Dell 24-inch U24 monitor, then it has to be 20,000 for me and then not 230 as it is the average price of it. So let me give this. Change the view there, nothing else. So this is the items. Oh, the item is gone. Oh, I think everything is gone. Let's select it again. AA consulting till May 31st, I said. So when you select your vendor, the subsidiary gets defaulted. So on the a consulting, this is what the subsidiary is. However, this vendor is a multi-subsidiary vendor. So which means I have on this vendor, on the AA consulting, I said that the United States West is my primary subsidiary on the vendor. But if I want to do business with a different vendor as the parent company, I can select that here. And then we will take in the item. Let's say 200 only, not 2 to 10 also. Add this and save the purchase contract. So now I have a purchase contract for a vendor and the item. Let's go back to the purchase orders then. So this is it. I mean, you don't have to do anything on the purchase contract, but you just have to keep it active now on the purchase order. When I select this, see, this is active now. On the purchase order, when I select this vendor along with this particular item, then what I'm saying is I'm supposed to get 200 on my purchase order and not 210. So let us see that. Go back to home transactions. Purchases, enter purchase orders. Let's open this in a different tab. So this is your purchase order form. So let's go back to the standard. Maybe the purchase order is the standard one. Let's do that. So we will discuss about this form a little later, but I just wanted to show you the purchase contracting, how that works. So I'm taking the AA vendor. The subsidiary gets defaulted as US West for me, and then I can take the location as US 1. And when I scroll down, there is something called as purchase contract. You see this? This is the same purchase contract that I have created PCO 1. Now, if I take another vendor, let us say I take ACME company. Instead of taking I'm not buying from AAA Consulting now. I want to, change the vendor. I'm buying it from someone else. Now, if you see, the purchase contract will not be available for this vendor because the purchase contract is created only for this vendor. AA, a consulting, is the vendor that we have created the purchase contract for. So no matter what vendor you take, apart from the AA consulting, that particular purchase contract will not be visible for us for a selection. So it's going to be a click on consulting. Great. And then under the purchase contract, you see I have selected the purchase contract P01. Let's scroll down, select the location, and then I select the item. You see this rate. So this is how the purchase contract impacts. So a purchase contract is linked over here now usually. What is the price of that? I'm not linking the purchase contract. Even with this vendor. Even with this vendor, if you do not link the purchase contract, then we'll see what is the purchase price of that Dell. This one, you see this, it is getting picked up as tutor 30. So the normal price is 230, but as long you know, as soon as I link my purchase contract immediately, then my price actually gets changed. My purchase price will just be 200, whatever is mentioned on the purchase contract. And you know what? You will not be able to make a change on this rate on a purchase order level. If at all you want to change something on the rate, then you have to do it on a purchase contract and not on the purchase order. And this purchase order will be valid only till May 31st. That is the date that I have specified on the contract, clearly saying that if I purchase from April season till May 31st, then this is what I need to get as a rate. So let me save this. I will again come back to the purchase orders. Don't worry about that, but I want to just save this purchase order and then I wanted to show you something. So once I save this purchase order, this is one way of creating purchase orders, by the way. So once I save this purchase order, let us see. Let's go back to the purchase contract and then we will see the purchase amount. What is the quantity? Everything gets updated on a purchase contract. So linking with that particular contract, what have you been purchasing? So let's go back to the purchase contract. Refresh this. You see this. On this purchase contract, I have created a purchase order. You see this on the linked records, related records. You will see what is the purchase order, which is PO127 that I have created. This is the related record. And now when you scroll down in the related records, you will not find anything for this but the purchase contract. You see that there is a link over here which gets added on the purchase order line as well. This is called a line level. This is called a header, by the way. So the entire thing that you see over here, this is all the header, and whatever you add down there is your line level transactions that you add. So this is what is all about your purchase contracts. So a purchase contract is a contract between your vendor. So that when you are buying an item in a specific period of time with that vendor, then so see the reason why you create a purchase contract is that some vendors reach out to you saying that we have a campaign running now. So if you buy so and so product, you will get a discount of, let's say, 10% till so and so date. So when you have that particular option there, then you can set that vendor and it automatically picks up. I mean, when you link a purchase contract, it automatically picks up the rate from the purchase contract. So that is one way of creating. And then there is something called as blanket purchase orders. Or let's do one thing. I will go into the purchase orders first so that you don't get confused. And then we will discuss about the blanket purchase orders. So let's go to the enter purchase orders screen once again. So here I'm getting the GSM products purchase order as my default form. The reason behind that is if you go into the customization forms, transaction forms, You remember I told you about the form. So the GSM form that we are referring to is actually made as the preferred form. So that is the reason you're seeing this as a default form. Now what I can do is I can say that purchase order can be my default form. So if you see, if I select one, the other one goes off because only one preferred form can be there. So let's submit this. Go back to our purchase order, refresh this. Now the form is purchase order, the standard purchase order form for us. So let's select the different vendor, maybe a bread supplier, not a AAA consulting. You can select any vendor of your choice. It depends on what the business wants. But you won't see the purchase contract for this vendor, as I said earlier. It put this in. So these are all self-explanatory fields, guys. I'm not explaining them once again. The location subsidiary gets defaulted as I've mentioned because this is a Canada subsidiary. The currency is also Canadian dollar for that. So there are two things now. You either can put in an expense. Now what is an expense? As I have explained you earlier, an expense can be anything. You go out with your team, you go for a team lunch and you want to expense that. You want to show that as an expense within the system because somewhere you have to enter that in the system or else you will not have a track of it. Now let us say I have spent 1,000 on my team. I'm a team manager. I went out for lunch, so I've spent 1,000 on my team lunch. But where are you showing that in the system? You have to enter that somewhere into NetSuite so that you have a track of this 1,000 that you have spent for the team or the client or whoever it is. So this is where you actually enter the expenses. So I can say that travel expense. So I'm out of the state now and I'm traveling somewhere. I can specify what my travel expense is and why did I travel. I have traveled so that I can take a look at the engineering products and what is the class of that product. It is class B. What is the amount? So I have spent one file. You can select the tax code as well. Whatever is the tax code. So you can select what is the related asset. For that too. So what I'm trying to do is I have traveled to Canada. And I have seen engineering products to buy them. Could be to buy or could be to sell, whatever it is. So this is an expense that I'm doing now. It is a class B and the amount is 500. So I can add this. I can show this as an expense. Now along with that I'm trying to buy something which is my, let's say, Dell 24 monitor on the same part. So if you see, the rate has changed. Because of the vendor that we have selected. So on the vendor also, you can have some preferred prices. So I'll show that to you. Again, engineering products. Class B, and let's say the quantity is 10. I'm buying. I'm planning to buy 10 of those. And then the tax code. So let us save this. So are there any other fields that we have to discuss? I think I've discussed most of it. So under the billing part, under the billing tab, you will see that there are some terms. What is NetSuite? So where are these payment terms coming from? Go to Setup Counting Lists. Here you can specify what the terms are. This is what the term is. If you view this, it will show you days till net due is 30 days. So we have to make a payment within 30 days once we create a purchase order. So that is what is your term all about. That's your payment term. And depending on this, it will show you the vendor credit limit. So aging reports as well. There are something called as aging reports, which means you are supposed to make a payment within 30 days. But when you are not doing it, then the system sends you an alert. Whenever you're trying to put in a next purchase order, it will give you an alert saying that the vendor credit limit has exceeded based on the vendor terms that you have set up. So you have to make a payment for this vendor. That is what it shows. Even there, if you remember, on the accounting preferences, there are certain options. You can either place a hold on the next purchase order that you cannot create a purchase order anymore, or you can select that as a warning. A warning message comes up, but then the system will not stop you from creating the purchase order. Warn and continue enforce holds. So these are the different options that you will have, or just ignore. There will be one more option. Ignore, so that even if you are overdue, even if you have to pay like thousands in overdue, the credit limit is only 100. Still, you won't get anything. It just ignores everything and it proceeds further. If you want to do that, you can do that as well. Under the shipping tab, there's a ship to select that you can work. This is not relevant for purchases because you do an item receipt for this. So let us save this purchase order. I have put in 2 transactions on this. One is an expense and the other one is an item with the quantity of 10. The purchase rate is 3271. This is how you will see that there is a pending receipt now. .452 is my total purchase order amount. The next transaction, the next step that you have to do within this is received. There is a receive button which gets enabled automatically on a purchase order. This is one wonderful thing about purchase order. It will guide you and it will show you what is the next step that you have to perform. There is something called as on NetSuite. There are always 2 ways. You can either go into this purchase order and click on receive, or there is something called as receive orders. If you open this receive orders page, you will have the book purchase orders which are pending to be received. What is my purchase order in this? What is the number 0.28? Do you see that over here? What was the name of the vendor? Bread supplier. This is how you can do it. There are 2 purchase orders for the bread supplier. One is for 24 and the other one is the one that we have put in. You can scroll down for the latest purchase orders. If you scroll down, you will find that at the end, based on the date that you have, You can actually do this as well. It is not getting sorted properly. You can do it on date. When you do it on date, you will get the first purchase order that you have created. These are the two ways. I can click on receive from here, or I can click on receive from here. It will take me to the same page. I have clicked on receive on both the pages. Let us see what happens. It will guide me to the item receipt page, which is this item receipt and items. It is the same page that NetSuite will guide us through. There are different roles that we have created on NetSuite. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.